With a loud crack, scales from the dragon's skin began to boil and melt away as movement from inside the body increased. Soon, bone wings ripped from the pile of skin, and a zombified dragon emerged from inside, filling the cavern with a sick stench and blood-curdling roar. The undead dragon immediately took notice of the heroes sitting in their holy bubble, beginning to circle the dome, swiping and tearing through what zombies remained. With all this powerful conjuring he's doing, he can't have much power left. I say we end this beast quickly and move forward before he can regain his strength, Vaius. Would you care to do the honors here? Alabaster asked as he patted his gauntlet upon the Daemon's back. A sudden warmth filled Vaius' body as a divine energy coursed through him, healing and closing his wounds. The worm circled the cavern chamber, its eyes now glowing with necrotic energy, and fixed upon the two adventurers. As Alabaster's divine magic reinvigorated Vaius, the mercy of Pt4 filled the blue fiend with a moment of clarity. In peril before the great necrotic purple dragon, Vaius glanced toward Alabaster, who returned an encouraging nod as the knight's consecration spell faded with a low hum. Well, do something then, Vaius. Were you waiting for my permission, friend? A smile spread slowly across the spell sword's face as he raised his mighty sword in a defensive stance, focusing his attention solely on the risen worm. Vaius was exactly where he wanted to be. A single moment passed. The dark worm shrieked in an effort to inspire fear before lunging towards the two heroes in a whirl of black crackling energy. Alabaster's magic had bolstered both heroes, and with great reactions, the knight swung his shield in a powerful backhand motion, deflecting the dragon's charge and abruptly ending its shrill screaming. Vaius followed after it, gesturing his open hand over the flat of his curved blade, enchanting it with coursing lightning. Reciting arcane whispers mid-stride, Vaius uttered a few more strange syllables and cast his open hand towards the necrotic worm. A blue arcane tether of force flew from Vaius' hand, and landing squarely in the dragon's side, Vaius spoke one more commanding word before flying to the end of his force hook, thus dispelling the invisible tether. Now in range, Vaius fought with purpose, unleashing an endless barrage of wide, cleaving strikes, each enchanted with a varying spell. As his curved blade found its mark time and time again, bursts of arcane lightning, fire, and ice erupted from the necrotic worm's wounds. The dragon fought back with unnatural tenacity, launching a series of fangs and talons coated in crackling black arcane energy back at the enlarged blue fiend. From the back, a beautifully placed shield toss from Alabaster deflected the dragon's terrible bite before it might have found Vaius, and the beast's wicked claws were parried masterfully by Vaius, who now found himself enjoying the opportunity to show his rival the nuances of orcish swordsmanship. One final brutish shoulder tackle from Vaius knocked the dragon well off balance, and following up with a monstrous swing from his mighty blade, Vaius nearly cleaved the dragon in two. The worm, shrieking in agony, finally succumbed to its wounds, and the necrotic aura which surrounded its remains dissipated into nothingness in the large cavernous chamber. That's what I want to see, Vaius. Enjoy yourself a little bit, the knight said excitedly, almost clapping. We can work on your swordsmanship later, and when we've more time. If you're unarmed, let's continue, shall we? Alabaster inspected his shield on his gauntlet before briefly squaring his armor atop his thin frame. Vaius couldn't find a comeback for his rival's quip about his fighting style. In truth, he wished he could find others like Alabaster, heroes willing to join him and push him to make a legacy for himself. He thought for one more moment, searching for any clever play on words to defend himself, but instead found nothing but elation in the moment, adventuring with his oldest friend.
I am unarmed. You fought well from the back lines, Alabaster. If you're more comfortable there, I would understand.
The two shared a brief moment of laughter before continuing further into the grim underground chasm. The cavern was now filled with the remains of charred and disheveled bodies littering the floor as the duo began searching for an entrance to the collapsed tomb. Aside from dirt and rocks, has your search yielded anything? I was never much for the investigation aspect of this job, Alabaster exclaimed from the opposite side of the cavern as he surveyed the rocky walls.
Come now, mighty paladin. In all your travels, you've never had to search for a sacred passageway?
Vaius teased back aloud. Ha! I stopped bothering once I joined you, my smart friend. Now I just wait for a good fight to drag you into. The two continued their back and forth as they circled the perimeter of the cavern, meeting eventually. With a light tap and knock on the selection of rock wall they met at, the duo nodded to each other. Your power is indeed great, Vaius, but a bit untamed and raw. Not sloppy by any means, but also very dirty, Alabaster stated as he watched his Daemon friend push against a large rocked wall.
As swords are sharp on the end, my friend. I'm assuming you also felt the draft of air laving the cracks of this wall.
Vaius grunted as he stood on his toes, surveying the wall, then began casting a magical detection spell. Vaius's casting was cut off as his hand was stopped by an armored gauntlet. I just mean to say that our methods combined would be insulted to see such an untouched part of the battlefield. Alabaster gestured towards an almost pristine skull, lying not far from where they stood. Vaius walked over and began picking the skull up, revealing a rod protruding from the dirt ground. As the rod was lifted, the wall they stood at began groaning as it slowly rolled backwards, unveiling a dark passageway. Alabaster looked down the dark cave triumphantly, with his hand sitting on his hips before turning his helmet to the approaching Vaius. Where would you be without me?
Looking for a friend like you,
Vaius stated as he patted his ally on the shoulder as he passed into the tunnel. The Daemon had actually spotted the skull's location previously, but decided upon leading his ally to it instead. While an amazing combatant and decent spellcaster, Vaius had noted Alabaster's perception needed work. Inside the hidden passageway they uncovered, they noted that it was of dirt and rock and not of stone like the tomb's entryway. The tunnel had been dug out only recently, clearly by the necromancer to reach the collapsed family tomb. The duo descended into the tunnel, letting the lit torches at the bottom lead their way. Once at the bottom of the tunnel, it opened to the side of a wall that had been broken through with tremendous force. Rubble and debris littered the floor of the room they entered through the large hole, taking in their surroundings.
Night and Daemon.